At this point we've done the sculpting, and so after the sculpting is all completed and the detail has been added, we're ready to make the mold around this for casting the foam latex in. So what we do is we have the edges all thinned out over here, and the idea is to make a very definite edge, because you don't want any residue of clay on the little bits of plaster. And the thinner the edges, the easier they will be to blend in the final product. So at this point, I'm going to say that the edges are ready to go. This thing is ready to cast. So the first thing we do is to make the blending edge, called the cutting edge. And we take some more clean clay here, form a long rope about the thickness of a pencil. Now this ultracal is fairly dry, so we're going to take a little bit of generic petroleum jelly. And just put a little nice smooth bit on there along the edge. This will allow the clay to stick to the plaster and not have it come up at some really inconvenient time, like when you're pouring in the first layer of the mold you're going to be making. Take our little clay snake, put it about a ½ inch away from the edge of our prosthetic. That's sticking now. Pressing it down. And what we're going to be making here is a very small channel of exposed ultracal between the edge of the prosthetic and the edge of the negative mold we're going to be making. Okay, so now we have our first step in applying this area here. It's called the cutting edge. So now we go in and press that down even closer to about 1/4 of an inch away from the edge of the prosthetic. Okay, now we take a very fine wire tool, trim off this bump here to get a nice smooth edge. This will enable the excess foam latex to flow out of the mold, giving us the super clean edge that we're looking for. We take our wire tool and place it, one point of it right on the ultracal and part of it over the clay, and just drag. And we end up with a nice sharp edge. Like that. Okay, and there is our cutting edge. Now, another thing we got to deal with, there's this large area right in here where the eyeball is. Now that's, we can make that even better by taking a small marble-sized piece of clay and placing it right over the eye, being very careful not to disturb the sculpture, just enough so that we can minimize the area where the two halves of the mold are going to be touching. There, so now we have that surface area of the closed eyelid, and so now that is the completed cutting edge. What we're getting ready to do now will be the actual dike which will form the walls, the sides of the negative mold. Anyway, we warm up the clay to the point where we can deal with it. Take a straight edge and put it right along the edge. Take a sharp-edged butter knife or something, and we get a flat edge. Just press that in to the clay we already have down there. And reinforce it underneath so it doesn't collapse. And you have the start of your wall. So okay, now if you look here, there's a couple of low spots. It's down here and down here, so we're going to have to make this wall a little bit higher. It's not absolutely necessary because of the way that we're building, because of the way that we build the negative mold. We don't just pour it all in and let it flow all over. We build it up like we did the life mask. But I'll put a little bit more on this side just to be safe. Again, same thing. Alright. That, I think, is going to do it for this. So, now that we have everything in place, we give the sculpture and the dividing wall and the cutting edge a good quick coat of Krylon Crystal Clear or matte finish or any other type of fixative. Be sure you do this in a well ventilated area. And now I'm going to walk away and let this cure before I run out of breath. Thank you. Be right back. Okay, it's been a couple of minutes and the fixative has dried on here, so we're ready to cast the negative. So I have a little bit of water down at the bottom of a bowl, and as usual, we always add the plaster to the water. So after 5 minutes or so of mixing, we take a soft brush. I'm using, again, the extra cheap chip brush. You can do that if you're careful. And gently put this onto the plaster. Now if you notice here, if I just slop it on, oops, there's air bubbles in there. So I need to go over it several times and gently, real gently, because you don't want to disturb the sculpture, work the wet ultracal into the clay. Now, like as when we were doing the life mask positive, put on a layer and then wait for that to set up but not completely harden. So this will take a few minutes and we'll get right back to you. Okay, it's been a couple minutes. I'm using warm water here, or lukewarm water, so the thing has started to set up. You can sort of see it's coming together nicely, but still it's ready to go. We are using UltraCal 30 again. When I say plaster, I mean UltraCal 30. I kind of get them mixed up, but it's the same stuff that the life mask was made out of. Okay, so now we have our UltraCal / plaster ready to go. Okay, and that's this layer. We'll let this set up for a few minutes, and then we'll do one more for the final top, and we'll be done. Okay, so it's been a couple of minutes, and this layer is firming up really nicely. So we will do our final, last layer. Now, that's about that. When we're pouring in the foam latex, this will be on the bottom, and this will be the bottom. This top part will be the whole thing will be flipped over, and this will be the bottom. So what we want to have is a flat edge here, so it won't be rocking all over the place. When you do that, you can do a little bit of that flat edge just by massaging it into a flat piece with a spatula. But the way to finally do it and do it right is to get a flat piece of something. This is a piece of tile, cutting board will also work, a piece of wood, something that's just non-porous and flat. Then you just kind of massage that, or maneuver that right into the top and press down. Okay, it's been about an hour since we put this together, and the stuff should be completely cured by now. So we'll just take the top off, and it'll give off a lot of heat, which is what it's supposed to do. When it's completely cured, it'll be so hard you will not be able to gouge it with your fingernail. So at this point, we start taking it apart. There. And there's our negative. And here's our positive. And now the fun part. We had to clean all this up and take all of the clay out that was there. And this will take a long time to do. Now what we can do, if you happen to have a toothbrush handy, well, I don't. So either a toothbrush or a chip brush, and just cut the ends off so it's nice and stiff. Take a little bit of alcohol, pure alcohol, acetone if you want to live life in the fast lane, and just scrub it in there. All right. That, friends, is how to make a negative mold. We'll go back a little bit later on, clean up these sharp edges here. Not so much for the purpose of, it won't affect the foam latex, but you don't want to, it's sharp, you don't want to cut yourself on it. So do we have the positive? The positive, all cleaned up. Now, this should fit right like that. Now if you go in here real close and look, get in here close, you see there's just the tiniest amount of crack where you can see where these two things come together. That's what you're looking for. So we're in there, it'll press down. This is how you do it.